Welcome to another amazing episode of the Physio Mission podcast. I have today Rob Vining. Rob, welcome to the episode. I am super excited to have you on. Like I pretty much everybody knows who you are at this point in time because you are the telehealth guru. So just welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate you having me on, Jared.
Absolutely. You know, I like to start typically on these interviews with origin story and just kind of like find out like what your path was to, first of all, technology, because you're a big technology nerd.
Yeah,
I love technology. I don't have my head as nearly as deep as you do, but I still love technology.
Yeah, man.
And how it can actually make our lives better. It's usually making our lives harder, but every now and then someone comes out with a really great product and it does really well for us. And also just then how you then transition into telehealth and then you're doing coaching and all this stuff. So let's go all the way back to the beginning and hear how you got there.
Yeah, sure. So finished up PT school in 2004, launched direct PT in 2005, was trained in the McKinsey system. So that was really a hands-off modality of, don't touch the patient until you absolutely have to.
Sure.
So that kind of kicked off everything. And I had built direct PT, so direct physical therapy back in the day. Saw some people on boats and yachts and all over Texas. And then basically
you were on the boats or they were?
No, they were. So they didn't come inland, right? So they had MSN Messenger and a horrible little webcam, but pretty much we just did one-on-one visits, got the job done, paid through PayPal, done.
Wait, pause. How did you get the customers on the boat?
Yep. So the thing that I got so lucky on was when I was making directpt.com is in the title bar, I simply put online physical therapy and people searched for that. And within about 2-3 months, Google put that first page within, first to third ranking. So I got extremely lucky. So that kind of continued on for about 2.5 years or so. And then it just completely tanked when Google shook up their algorithm.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was like page 1, page 12. And I was like, okay, guess I'm working in the clinic for a while longer. So did that, would see patients, same sort of method as they needed if they're far away. And, I was seeing them in clinic, ran clinics, managed clinics for hospital systems, just mainly worked in outpatient. And then kind of just started getting back into things in 2014, 2015, kind of created PTLive.me, started the Telehealth Physical Therapy Providers Group, TelehealthPT.com, Telehealth 10K Challenge, all these other different things that are all telehealth related with the goal of just pushing it into the space. Because from the point I started, people were always, going, oh, you're going to ruin the profession. I'm like, no. This is something we can do because everyone has that aspect and kind of ingrained, or at least the people that were yelling at me, that we have to use our hands, and without our hands we're nothing. It's like, what about this, guys? You got to use this to assess and figure things out. You're like, it doesn't matter. So
for those that are listening right now, Rob was just tapping his head with a pen. Use your brain, folks.
Right.
Okay, got it. What happened next?
So after that, we made PTLive, and PTLive is a text telehealth and scheduling platform.
Right.
And the whole reason was I could kind of see the writing on the wall that telemedicine had an upswing. Telehealth was going to have an upswing with any, allied health professionals playing the part to help all these telemedicine doctors. And so I was looking at, all right, what's the entry point? What's going to make this easier for the patients to get connected with these providers? And I wanted to make a live chat that could step up and go from texting to something that was similar to a phone call that was go also right into a live chat that could also spill into a paid telehealth session.
That sounds really like technical from a software perspective. So what education are you leveraging that enabled you to understand even that was possible? And then next is like how to do it.
Right. So I've been in software since before I even got into PT school. So if you look up my name and Clear Channel Communications, you'll see this big fight that I had because
Clear Channel's like a big company.
Huge company. Yes.
Yeah.
This was something where I was making music, producing music, and I had all these friends that couldn't get on the radio, and they were extremely well-versed, like extremely good musicians. And I was like, what is going on? And so I looked up into the industry, and there's this whole payola side of things. And so I created radioaid.com. And that was a streaming radio system. This was back when high-speed internet was just starting to come on the map.
Okay.
And I was like, all right, we got to create this streaming radio system so that all these unsigned artists can get exposure. And so I created radioaid.com and then had clearchannelsucks.net, which kind of exposed the underbelly. And so they didn't like that, and they got mad at me and basically started they tried to take the domain name. It ended up, I went through this whole arbitration, but I won it back. That's the fun story. If you ever look that up, it's pretty interesting. Yeah.
All right. So so you were doing that, and at what point in time did you have this epiphany? Like, I think I'm going to go spend a couple $100,000 and do physical therapy.
Right. Yeah. So that was I had played football in school, got hurt multiple times, going from high school to college. Played a few years in college, and whenever I got hurt there, I went back to my hometown, and this guy that had been Carl Lewis's physical therapist. And for the younger PTs listening, Carl Lewis is an old athlete that was extremely fast in the 100-meter dash. Right.
Yeah.
So he had fixed him super fast. So I went to this guy and I was like, let's just see. And he fixed my leg in like 2 visits. And I was like, what is happening? Okay. So I wanted to just mimic and look at everything he was doing. And that was, I guess I was senior year of high school going into college. Watched him, shadowed him for like 6 weeks. I still have my notebook where I wrote down like everything. I was trying to sponge up everything, but I just wanted to learn how to help people get better fast. Right. So that was kind of my exposure to the PT side. And then I went into PT, and that's when I decided going into college. I was like, all right, I'll play football at a place where I know they have a PT school. And then I just volunteered there, and it was kind of a shoo-in because my coach wrote me a letter of recommendation. And then my volunteer hours were in the clinic already. So it was kind of an easy.
Right. So you get through PT school, and then you get out into the industry. And then at some point in time, you realize that there was this need and that you could combine technology with physical therapy to create a platform that enables people to treat people all over the country, which is, it makes it sound like I'm saying you invented telehealth, but like you created the platform for physical therapists to leverage their knowledge and expertise through telehealth.
Yeah.
And that's what the PTLive platform was all about.
Yeah. I like educating the market on how they can do things themselves and just kind of do a Lego approach to glue things together. Because I'm like super libertarian. If anybody's ever listened to me talk, they're like, dude, you're the worst salesman. You just like give away everything. I'm like, yeah, because if you know how to do it, the old teach a man to fish scenario, I'm trying to teach people that there's easy ways to do it cheaply to where you can just glue these pieces together and then start. Because that's been the big push and the biggest hurdle is getting people to start.
Right. And when you say pieces, do you mean pieces of technology?
Yes. Yep. So scheduling, live video platforms, payment platforms, all those little pieces it's not even more than like 6 or 7 that have to be glued together. But it makes it a viable product in a way that you can distribute.
Does the PTLive platform replace all those separate pieces?
Some of them. Okay. It plugs in different systems. Like for payment, it's just, we use Stripe. For live video platforms, it's whatever you want to use. It could be Zoom, could be Doxy. Depends on if you're a covered entity or a non-covered entity, which one you need to use. So it kind of uses a scheduling model based on like Google Calendar. It uses that as a nexus point. We also connect with other, like an Australian-based EMR system. So it has little bits and pieces. So it's like Telehealth Lite, if you think about it. But you can go lots deeper.
Texting, it solves the actual communication component or integrates with Zoom or something like that.
Yep.
It solves the scheduling component. Yep. You have Stripe integration, so you can take payment through that whole thing.
Yep. And there's an insurance reimbursement check and verification too, because we figured people were going to need that. So all these little pieces you can either add or subtract.
Gotcha. And that's a monthly subscription type thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Every month.
And then you were like, okay, we did that. Now we need like a patient facing portal. And that's where digital physio came in.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay. So we wanted something that was going to be very light touch for the patient that looks, nice and fluffy and friendly. That's when you go there and it's literally clouds of diagnoses coming up because we didn't want it to be some dangerous, blocky looking, Excel spreadsheet type of thing where you're picking. We wanted it to be cartoony, like light, to where they could go, okay, this is easy. Let me just talk to these people. So the patients simply enter her first name, choose their state they're located in so we can match them with a therapist. And then they just select their diagnosis and it just pops up a live chat and they get 12 free minutes with a licensed physical therapist in their state.
Wow. How many, now do they sign up? Do you have like a set of users? How does that work?
Yeah. No. So the patients don't have to sign up at all. It's literally the lowest barrier to entry we could make.
Yeah. And so the therapists are paying a fee to be listed on the service, if you will?
Yeah, pretty much. It's one of those systems where you get the free version and that's free, but you don't get on digital physio. When you pay, then you get into digital physio. So it's like that add-on that is the bonus because I try to make it as easy and lightweight as possible to where people aren't, all right, I like people to try it before they buy it.
Right.
I want them to see how it works before they go, oh, okay, I can do this.
That is awesome, man. I wish I had some of those skills.
Well,
I have a problem. I know. I'll build a software for it.
Right. Yeah.
That is awesome. Did you do all the coding yourself?
No. I'm great at project management. And I can do like some lightweight HTML, that type of stuff. My wife is actually the designer and the copywriter and everything on that side. So it's awesome because I can be the idea framework crafter. She makes it make sense to people. And then we have our developer crew, which we've had since we started. And they are just awesome and spot on. Like the system we have now still holds up. And we've had developers take a peek at it and they're like, dude, this is good code because it does not break, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Okay. Now we have to zoom out, right? Because that was a little bit on the technical side. That wasn't even that deep, but it was still a little bit technical.
Right.
Let's just back up and talk about telehealth as a whole.
Yeah.
Because I have a tremendous interest in the topic, even though I've never done it myself, primarily because I'm obsessed with van life videos and the notion of being a digital nomad. And I actually went and I registered physionomad.com just so no one else can have it. So one day in the future, when I'm traveling around the country at national parks, I can still, work. So let's just start by covering the absolute basics, which is, let's talk about the legal side.
Right.
We all know that we can treat within our state.
Right.
And some of us understand that we sort of can't treat people outside of our state, even if it's through telehealth, but then there's a compact and then this, that, and the other. So can you just give us the simplified, third grade version of how this all works?
Absolutely. So think about it this way. It's just a distribution model. It's the same as North Carolina put out a letter to their physical therapists in their state. And North Carolina said, look, we keep getting questions about telehealth. Just follow your practice act. That's all it is. It's the same. It's simply a distribution model. So if you think about it that way, it's the exact same as if you're working in a brick and mortar. Only treat patients where you're actively licensed, where they are physically located. That is the big key.
Now, can you be anywhere in the country?
You can be anywhere in the country.
Okay, so I could be in Nevada, and I could be licensed in Jersey, treating people in Jersey, but I could be in Nevada.
Yes, but they have to be physically located in New Jersey.
Do they have to physically be in New Jersey when they're treated? Not they just live in New Jersey.
No, they have to.
Okay, and if they live somewhere else but they're hanging out in New Jersey, that's still kosher. You can still see so long as they're in the physical state of New Jersey.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, now is there a licensure compact that would allow us eventually to treat in multiple states? And where's that? I know that compact is moving forward. I don't know much about it since I just treat New Jersey, but tell us about what's going on with that.
So the PT compact is just a faster way to grab a licensure, and it's not an actual licensure where you could move to that state and open up a brick and mortar practice. It is simply giving you access to the patients that live inside that state. So it still costs money. It still is on a yearly basis, but it will let you expand your practice if you physically live and are located as your home base inside an active PT compact state. So let's say, for example, I think there's 18, maybe 19 now states that are active. You have to physically be located and housed in one of those 19 states before you can apply for licensure through the compact in those other 18 states, right?
Okay. So I live in a compact state, and then I know that I want to do telehealth in one of the other compact states. So then I apply for licensure through the compact in the other state?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And do I have to go through the same type of requirements that somebody who is living in that state, such as the jurisprudence stuff and all that?
Yeah, most of them have a jurisprudence exam that you can either do online or send in. Some of them do not require it. I think Colorado is one of those rare states, but there's a whole breakdown on ptcompact.org that'll tell you information about that.
I'll put that in the show notes. Is it COMPAC or?
COMPACT, so a compact.
Yeah, compact.
I always have to type that in 50 times. I'm like
.org. And we'll put that in the show notes as well.
Yep.
Okay, so I go ahead and I get my PT compact so that I can work in a couple of different states. I can live in any of those states that have the compact.
Yeah.
Can I then move outside of one of those states?
That's where it gets sticky because you have to have your physical residence still in one of those PT compact states.
So if you're technically on the road traveling, you cannot utilize the compact unless you can show residency in one of the states where the compact is.
Yep. Or there's some caveats if you're in the military. I think that's one of the caveats where they kind of allow you to designate where your home state is based on where you're based.
Now that's only if you're doing the compact. What if you have an actual physical license in New Jersey or some state and you're living somewhere else? That's okay. You don't actually have to live in New Jersey.
Yeah. No,
you don't have to have a residence there.
Right. So the
it's
PT
only when you're
compact,
leveraging the compact piece.
Exactly. You could literally live anywhere and get all other 49 state licenses, and you're nationwide. You're good to go for telehealth.
Gotcha. So if you have to pay the same amount and you have to do the same jurisprudence, why go through the compact to get the license? Why not just call the state and just get a license there?
It's cheaper and faster, and you can get, whenever I first did it, I think I got 4 licenses in about 4 hours. So it was that fast.
I got
So it can set up a scenario where if you're in one of those compact states and you have the capability to list your services for telehealth, you can just wait until one of those patients stumble in, pay the $100 or whatever it is fee, then you can grab a license because now it makes sense, right?
I see.
You're not just simply getting licenses and praying that you get people. You can kind of wait for it and then just do it overnight and say, I'll see you in a couple of days whenever this thing is, all the way through and I'm actively ready to go.
Okay, that's cool. So it's all about really time and efficiency and cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before digital physio existed, how would people get telehealth customers? I know how I get brick and mortar customers, but how do you find telehealth customers? You in the beginning lucked out, the way that, Google's search engine optimization worked, and you're finding people who are, in the Antarctica or whatever. But like, how does somebody who, without going through digital physio, how would they do it the old way?
So the way that I teach in the course that I'm teaching is I will teach people to find niche areas to start with. There's a couple of big ones. So the ones that I used the most was like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA gyms, boxing gyms, karate dojos, those sort of things. And I would approach the gym owners of those specialty gyms. And I would say, look, I know you're going to have people that are hurt. I know that those people have a high chance of churning to where they're no longer going to be a part of the gym, which means decreased revenue for you. Here is 5 free business cards, and they've got a code with your business name on the back. Have people that are injured use that code, come into my system. I'll see them for free for a couple of visits. I'll get them better, and then we'll talk later. So I would see those people. They would get better. I would basically send them back into the gym, working out and doing the things. And people would be like, Bill, what's happening? I thought you were hurt. You had this neck thing. And he'd say, no, I went to this guy and I saw him online and he fixed me. They'd be like, what? And then the owner would see that person back, would be like, okay, I'm not losing money on this guy this month.
Right.
And then the owner just sees you as the answer to keep his clientele healthy.
Right. Okay. That's the same approach we use when we approach local gyms. But I missed the part about the business card with the code on it to get into your system. So
this is the fun part with telehealth. I'm always looking for shortcuts that are cheap and easy. So the Wix platform, Wix.com, it's like a graphical user builder, whatever. It has a coupon system that is probably the easiest thing I've ever seen built, because it lets you create a coupon. It lets you put all the parameters on the coupons. And then as soon as those coupons are basically all done and 5 people have used it, it'll turn off, and it's all automated. So anytime that I would actually go to a gym, I would say, okay, here's, Bob's MMA gym. I just write Bob MMA as the coupon code, type it into Wix, set that up properly, write it on the back of my card that I'd have a little line saying, use this coupon code.
And give those to Bob. What? They click on the website? How are they getting to you?
They would go to, let's say directpt.com was my old website.
Okay.
They'd go to directpt.com and they'd pick a time. Pick a day and time because it's free. Go to my automated scheduler. And then they'd go enter the coupon code. Now they got a free visit set. I get an email saying, hey, somebody has used Bob's MMA. It's Jeff from, this gym, and he's going to see you on Thursday. And then I've got that whole mindset of, oh, here we go. Now I know who I'm treating. I have a list of that. I know one of my coupons have been used. I know I'm going to treat this guy extra special, and then report back to the gym owner, Bob, and tell him that Jeff's doing all right after they're done.
That's pretty cool. And you have a course on that?
Yeah, so this is the Institute of Clinical Excellence.
I was kind of kidding. I was
no.
Wait a minute. This is part of the telehealth building that you're doing with the Institute of Clinical Excellence. This is part of that thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're also going to put a link to the essentially where they can go to find out more information about that whole course.
Yeah. Yep.
But okay, so that one hack is awesome, but it sounds like it requires you to have a physical relationship or to physically go to.
You got it.
So what is the advantage then, other than just being able to treat from home, if you're working with people who are literally local to you?
Yeah. If you're doing that locally, then you can expand statewide. So imagine it this way. You have people that are in those specialty gyms. they're going to know other people outside of there or friends or family members. All the time I'd get, hey, I know you fixed my shoulder and it's specific to, BJJ. I've got, my aunt, she has this neck issue. Think you could fix her? I'd be like, yeah, just have her go to the website. Where's she located? She's up north. I'm like, up north, like Canada? Where? No, same state, just right here. Okay, yeah. Sure. You pre-qualify them and get them in the door, and that helps spread that word of mouth. Telehealth is so convenient that it's super easy. Once you create victories, those patients are going to spread that word of mouth because it's still super novel.
So you're leveraging essentially your success with the first couple of patients that you're treating essentially for free to demonstrate a proof of concept. Mm-hmm. You're treating those people through telehealth, and then you're sort of leveraging the relationships that they have to expand your network of potential customers.
Right.
And because the barrier to entry is so low, they essentially just go onto your platform, schedule, and you can go with them.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be a model that people start using all the time in brick and mortar clinics because they can create those 20-minute consultations. You can have them like this. How many times do you do a 20-minute consultation? You're putting your hands on patients. Not that often, if ever.
Right.
So make it convenient for them to where they don't have to drive through traffic, park, and try and get into your doors.
Yeah. So the light bulb just went on for me as you were just talking there, right?
Yeah.
So as a brick and mortar practitioner, the idea of putting telehealth on the front end before the person actually comes in, right? So let's talk about how do you put those two cogwheels together?
Yeah, and that is where PTLive comes in, and that's why I made it that way, because I wanted brick and mortar and telehealth practitioners, or the hybrid model, right? I wanted anybody to be able to use that type of system as the entry point to not only be more convenient to convert new patients to your brick and mortar clinic, but also to convert patients and to almost baptize them in the way of that they now know telehealth is an option for them, right? Because they're like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. That was the thing that convinced me to come in. Super valuable. That's why I'm here. So
now, are there certain diagnoses that work better through telehealth? I mean, I'm asking you, I know what my opinion would be, but like, what are your thoughts on like some of the things that for which telehealth, does it work for everything?
Yeah,
like, you're going to get stuff where people just can't.
Absolutely. That was another big selling point, was always to have in the back of my head, refund and refer. So if I get a patient that came in and I did my intake and I got my consent to treat, by the way, I haven't seen a patient since like October 2018. So I am jonesing to see patients, but I'm like, I burned the bridges. I'm not seeing patients anymore. It's all just educating the market and selling software. So whenever I would see,
got out.
Yeah, I did, man. I did. This is all market based. So this is the thing that I would do when I would have patients come in. If they weren't a good fit, I would coordinate with other brick and mortar clinics near where the patient was, so that I would then have that as a marketing moment to get them a new patient. And they would say, what do you do? And then that clinic now knows that I'm available because they don't want to do telehealth right now. Right. And so they would be like, well, there's that guy, Rob, and he could see you and you're about 2 hours away. So let's just give you over to him. So it's kind of this nice equal exchange, and it keeps the patient happy, and it makes those outlets where they're not a good fit for telehealth still valuable to you, and still, keeps you at top of mind for the patient, to where they're going to say, oh, my aunt has somewhere. This guy, Rob, he wasn't trying to rob me. He was trying to, help me and get me to the best practice. So again, that keeps the things easy to sell telehealth.
So as a PT, you're essentially acting as the triage, if you will.
Bam.
And then you're sending that person out if you think this is something that really does need something hands-on or more direct or whatever it is that you really can't supply to somebody hands-off. Okay.
Yep.
So that's if you are local. You're making relationships. You're giving people the opportunity with low barrier to entry to do telehealth with you, and then you're leveraging the success that you got. It's kind of like the good old word of mouth model, but just with a little bit of a tweak to it.
Yeah.
What about how do you get customers who are not local to you? So what is the marketing strategy, if you will, for getting people who are not within your town?
Yeah. So the thing with that is I always have people start with a niche. I always start with the example in the course. We'll say like musicians, and then niche it down even more and say like saxophone players, right? And then you create
niche it down in the marketing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So in the avatar that you're trying to figure out, like you're literally recommending people get as uber specific as possible in the very beginning.
Yep. Because that is going to allow you to bring people to your expertise discussing saxophone players with carpal tunnel or hand injuries, right? And so all you do is you create a 20-30 minute piece of content, and it talks about saxophone players, common injuries, how they start, how they can be resolved, and how you can keep them from coming back.
On
and
what
then you
platform?
take that on anything. You can do it through Zoom even, right? And limit yourself to 100 people at that $15 a month Zoom plan. So you could run a webinar like that, have them register with different questions that they have, take those questions, and then you do this webinar that is, you can pitch this out to any sort of musician groups on Facebook. You can do it by, I would highly suggest talking to the admins of those groups. Do not just cold pitch it. You will get banned immediately. Talk to the admins and then pitch it that way, or post billboards on, Guitar Center, or have other people do that in areas in your state still at other guitar centers. Get 20 people in there, be the expert. Now you have that piece of content, and you just pitch your services before and after the webinar. You're answering in a historical reference. That's the other thing. You're not directly treating them. You're answering questions in a historical reference point, saying, when all these other patients that I've treated that have had these issues, here's what we did with them previously. So you're creating your expertise, and then you're giving them the opportunity to have an evaluation or 20-minute consult with you later on. And then you just get new patients that way.
After that webinar, how are they, what is the call to action at the end of the webinar that they take in order to go to the next step? If you have 50 people on a webinar and you put a call to action to say, schedule with me now, are they just bombarding your scheduling system? Like what is the actual action that takes place there?
You could totally do it that way. So you could provide a coupon code, again, super simple. You could provide a direct link to your schedule. I like X.AI, which is an automated scheduling system. That helps.
X.AI.
Dude, it's awesome. If you haven't used that before, I think I've got like a 45-minute free walkthrough on how to actually use it. Like I said, worst salesman ever. I pitch and do everything and give it away for free. But it's a great system to use to automate everything, because we're in tech already. You might as well automate it, right? And then
what does it do? That software?
It lets people actually either pick a time and day on your schedule, and it does all the email back and forth, or they say, I'm interested in scheduling, and it gives them the scheduling to where it cuts out the back and forth of, you open at 10. No, I've got an 11:30. Oh, I'm busy. How about a 12:30? So it'll do all that for you. Is it through
email?
Yes, it's all through email. Yeah, it's very nice, man.
Interesting. You set it up in the front end. It's kind of like ManyChat for email?
Kind of, yes. Yeah, that's really similar. And it's just very lightweight, and you can kind of put all kinds of parameters on it. It'll automatically do a Zoom call for you to where it sets up a different Zoom call. So all these nice little plug-in features. Yeah, I like it.
That's awesome.
But after that, it makes it to where if you want to do free ones, that's fine. If you want to plug in patients and have like a 20% discount on your regular fees, you just send them to your schedule and give them that coupon code again, letting you track your conversions from the webinar to that. And then again, it's just word of mouth after that. When people recognize that you could treat somebody that plays saxophone, they have other musician friends, right?
Right.
So they're going to tell their musician friends how convenient and easy it was. They're going to come in the system. Now you have even more people.
Right. Okay. I want to recap that, right? Because that was a lot, right? So the first piece was pick a niche, right? You got to get uber specific on your niche.
Yep.
After you pick the uber specific niche, you are going into, Facebook makes sense because it has groups, and so it's a social platform.
Yep.
And you're finding that avatar inside of other groups, or you're trying to figure out where they're at, right?
Yep.
Once you figure out where they're at, you're then figuring out what information do these people would they really benefit from? What valuable information can I give them about the most common injuries that this person sees within that uber specific niche?
Yep.
You're creating a webinar that essentially teaches them the answers to the most common questions, which you may not even have yet, because when they register for the webinar, you're going to ask them, what is the most common question that you have, or what is the burning question you have about whatever your most common injury is. So you're actually curating the questions through the advertising, or through the thing anyway.
Well said.
You then get them on to the Zoom webinar. You're teaching them content, and you're basically answering a generalized answer. You're not actually treating them. You're saying, well, for the patients that I've had in the past, this is what has worked. This is what hasn't worked. You talk a little bit, you answer the questions, you take questions live, I imagine. And then it's at the beginning and the end, giving them an opportunity to work with you by either using a coupon code or getting on your scheduler or a phone call, or however you want to set up the actual thing. And that's how you're actually acquiring customers online.
Perfect. Yep.
Woo! That was awesome.
Dude, well summarized.
Thank you. I love that. And the reason I love it is because it it sounds like it requires very little front end work.
Yep.
You really don't have to spend all this time. I mean, we're in the middle of doing a webinar right now, and it's a pre-recorded webinar. It's like called the Back Pain Freedom Webinar, and it's essentially me teaching the 3 secrets to relieve back pain. It's produced, it's awesome, except it's already made. Yep. And so it took me a ton of time to make it. And then I don't even know if that's what people want. I didn't really do a whiteboard webinar kind of thing where I just teach it on the fly.
Yeah.
I like the way that you have this set up because you're really understanding through the process of running the webinar what those questions are. Even if you don't know what those questions are, you find them out in the process.
That's right.
And then you can customize the content. And then the next time you run that same webinar, you can almost like use those common questions as advertising. In this webinar, I'm going to answer X, Y, and Z to attract those people. Now, do you ever run Facebook ads behind that?
I've tried that before. It doesn't seem to work as much because most people, number one, have a hard time struggling to specify what physical therapy is. And number two, they're like, all right, I understand kind of what physical therapy is, but online, what? Like it's such a disconnect. Right. So that's like the hard part.
Yeah, I see. Interesting. Also, I mean, with Facebook, there is some issues with actually advertising anything with the word pain in it. You have to be really careful about how you do that.
Yep.
Okay. So that's how you essentially get customers who are not local. For somebody who's never done a telehealth session, can you walk me through, like, let's do this. Let's pretend I'm the patient and you're the therapist.
Perfect.
Interface with me like I'm the patient and walk me through what the actual session would sound like. And in a quote unquote evaluation, after you ask me the basic questions of like, where does it hurt and what time of day and this and the other, what do I actually do? Like, how do I test myself to give you the answers that you need? You know, do I back up and like do a press up and tell you if, you know, how do I actually do it? Right. Cause there seems to be some like logistical things that like, if you've never done it, they just seem sort of like, like arbitrary, but
absolutely
walk me through it. So I'm a patient. What do I do?
Yeah. So this is the part of it that's the most fun is that if you already have a framework that's ready to go, you're used to doing this. It's just a subjective. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions like, all right, you know, like you said, where's your pain at? Which I've already got on the intake. I've already got most of the questions on the intake. The second part I want to figure out is what do you want to get back to doing? That's our big focus. So if you're going to be on like a laptop or a phone and I have something that I've got from the intake and it's like, I can't do stairs. Are there stairs in your house? Yes. Let's see your stairs. All right, go up the stairs. Then I can physically see you do your stairs.
Let's see your stairs. So what if their computer is in let's say the desktop and they're up in the second floor and do they, you know, they obviously can pick up their desktop. Are you trying to get them to interface with you on a phone?
Yeah,
so
you can do both.
They can walk around the house?
So just as easy as I clicked into this Zoom call, you can send somebody a Zoom link and they can click on their phone and pop up Zoom on their phone. So a lot of times if I had patients that I knew were going to be more active than less, I was going to send them already like a tripod, right? So it's $15 tripod. I'd send it to their house through Amazon. They're like, oh my gosh, you already knew it. I'm like, yeah, I know you need a tripod. Here you go. So they'd have a tripod. They can pop this phone on here and then I can have them just basically back up and show me. So if I just listen to them say, oh, stairs are hard. How? What does it look like? Like I'm figuring out and doing all the real life in the house stuff that I would normally do kind of like with home health.
I love the idea of sending them like the tripod as part of your offer stack. Like this is included in your assessment, that whole thing. That's really cool. And that's also, you get reciprocity and they'll have like a gift from you and you can send them. Now you have their mailing address. So now you can actually, you know, send them actual like a postcard saying thank you very much and all that stuff. Okay. So that's awesome. But I'm still lost on the whole, I'm holding a phone doing stairs and you can see me. Am I like holding the phone out here while I'm doing stairs? Or am I setting the tripod up in the other side of the room and I have to walk over here and do stairs and then walk back to the phone? Like what is the practicality of that?
It can be difficult like that, but that's the whole reason why we have a whole variety of different examples of people being treated via telehealth on telehealthpt.com. Like there's 320 examples of people to go, how would you treat this? How would you treat this? That's not even me.
So on your telehealthpt.com website, you've got examples of people doing this so that you can get a sense of how it would be done for various issues.
Yes. That's the whole reason. Now, this is another whole thing. We ran a telehealth 10K competition that ended back in December where we gave away $11,000. So the first person that actually saw 100 visits won $10,000. That was Irene Luke. She destroyed it. She did awesome. In a month, she got 112 telehealth visits done. It was amazing. So that let us build this whole library of other physical therapists seeing patients. And the patients, of course, signed a consent, signed an educational release form. They got treated for free. Irene even saw somebody and took her from on a walker, couldn't walk upright, to at the end of her telehealth sessions, walking around, no walker, done, all via telehealth, right?
Wow.
So you have to use your brain to figure out these different strategies because, yes, it's going to be different. But me, myself personally, I would see a patient, figure out their baselines, get a concordant sign of, okay, I can't do this without pain shooting down my leg. I say, all right, based on this, we're going to try this one movement and then we're going to test it again. And so it was like a lot of test and retest.
Sure.
And then if you've got like a post-op patient, a lot of it is getting their range back, doing a lot of stuff that's not going to require hands-on.
Yep.
Then it's a lot of endurance training. So exercise sessions online, right? Same sort of thing, but it's doing it in a guided fashion and you're providing lots of patient education. So that is the huge portion that I'd focus on is lots of subjective, lots of patient education.
Right. So 2 questions came up for me as you were describing that. The first one is, when you are prescribing exercise, as the telehealth practitioner, are you demonstrating that exercise to them, or is there a platform that you're using to send them exercise programs where they can watch the video and then you coach them as they're executing the written program?
2 ways to do it. Sometimes I would do that myself if they didn't understand it or is a weird movement or exercise that I wanted them to replicate. And another thing that I would always do and always suggest to people to do is don't reinvent the wheel. YouTube is there. Just have a whole list of YouTube common videos that you like, have them there. So it reinforces to the patient that it's not only you that is suggesting it, but other people also do this as a solution. And they're going to be like, oh, okay, I just needed this one piece of information. It's obviously common knowledge. I just don't know it yet. Done.
Right.
And so it reinforces.
Now, are people using insurance through this as well?
Not as often because insurance is that tricky beast right now. I did a bunch of advocacy with the APTA's congressional liaison this past summer with getting telehealth physical therapy reimbursed for Medicare. And that was fun. And we have at least a couple little caveats that'll be in place for the Connect for Health Act that should pass this year. And that'll give us a couple of different little pieces to get reimbursement. Parity law is a different thing where each state can say yes or no on if they have to pay in clinic. You have to pay in telehealth the same that you would pay in clinic, and a lot of loops and loopholes and hurdles that are put in place. So it's a little difficult there, but some insurances do pay. Medicare does not yet.
Okay. So if they're using insurance, then how do you get measurements or grades or range of motion through telehealth?
So everything with MMTs are going to be subjective. So some of that is kind of out the window already. So people can say 4 plus 5, all these different things. I go with the functional movements. And then if it's range of motion I need to look for, I can look at my elbow. And if people listening, I'm bending and straightening my elbow, I'll have somebody bend their elbow as much as possible. I'll take a screenshot and take a plastic goni and put it up to that and measure it. Done. And then I'll take the extension, plastic goni, screenshot, done. Then I have that to refer back to as well. It's just as accurate as if I'm there measuring. And you know how goni can be.
So we do something like that very similar when we do something called a NASCAR running analysis here, where we'll basically do a slow motion video analysis. Then we put it up on a big screen. And we have them do stuff, and we're looking for specific knee excursions and ankle excursions. And I literally just freeze the video, take my little baby goniometer, go up to the television screen, and I'm like, okay, this is how much you have when you run.
That's it.
And I have no idea if it's accurate because I don't know. I don't freeze them while they're running out there and find out whether or not it was. But it seems like proof of like it seems like it would be a very accurate way of actually assessing range of motion. I mean, it's a 2-dimensional image. If you get the right angle, you're going to get a decent measurement. Okay, that is awesome. So you take them through. You're doing some sessions with them. What is the average frequency that you'd be seeing a patient, and how does frequency and the plan of care differ than when you're treating them brick and mortar?
I would usually try and treat patients, myself personally, with orthopedic type issues once a week. That's what I would normally see in the clinic too, because like I said, I'm McKinsey based. I really want the patient to learn how to treat themselves. If it was post-surgical and I was seeing a patient, it'd be 2 to 3 times the first week, and then maybe 2 times the next couple of weeks. And then as they felt better and everything was improving, I would wean them off and just do like maybe once or twice a week with a lot of endurance sessions, and then try and get them as independent as possible. Now, when it hits a point where, let's say a patient gets 90% better, and I'm like, and there's 2 visits in a row where they're 90% better, I'm already looking for a referral because I want them to get that 100%. And if I can't do it, I don't care. It's not about me. It's about the patient.
Yeah.
So again, referring them to somebody else to get that last 10% is a marketing moment. So it actually helps me. And the patient leaves not with a bad taste in their mouth. They're like, oh, okay, this guy wants me to really get all the way better.
So it doesn't sound like the plan of care differs very much than you would in brick and mortar in the number of times that you're seeing them. And the average session is an hour?
Yeah. It's I would charge for an hour about $95, and this is like throughout my whole career. $95 an hour, and then $55 for a half hour. Most people would look at that and it would just default to the hour because they're like, 55. If I doubled that, 110. I'll go with a cheaper option. Right. $95.
Is that average across, or that's just what you've charged?
That's what I've charged. People always ask, like, what do you charge? I'm like, this is just me. The great thing about it, you can always change your prices if you're cash pay specifically. Yeah. And patients, once they see convenience, they really grasp and like that concept. And you
run into the same issues that you do with Medicare in cash-based practices,
definitely.
Right? Where you've got, if it's wellness versus, whether it's PT, if it's covered versus not covered. And
Absolutely.
Okay. What about equipment? When you're doing in-home physical therapy, I actually interviewed a lady this morning that does in-home physical therapy. And she wanted to do some part-time work here, and then we needed somebody to refer out to when somebody is not appropriate for our brick and mortar space. But she essentially totes with her bands and a ball and all that stuff to the person's house, knowing that they don't have that much equipment.
Yeah.
So in telehealth, are you having the patient typically, assuming they don't own equipment, buy stuff, or are you literally just figuring out what can I have them do with what they have in their home? Do you have them walk into the kitchen and grab a water bottle? How bootleg do you actually get?
It can be either way. And a lot of times, like I said, I would send them something like a tripod to start. Whenever that happens and I know the patient, I'll go through an inventory list of what they actually have. If they don't have weights or anything, I'll send them an easy TheraBand. A pedal bike is 20 something bucks if they've got like a knee replacement and they don't have access to one. Pedal bikes are super easy. TheraBands are $20 max with handles and the whole 9 yards. So you can get a lot of work done in volume versus having like specialized equipment. And again, it's all about function. So I would make sure to incorporate a bunch of stuff with resistance or with endurance training in mind, but also based in function. So it's kind of that mixture of the two. But if patients had stuff, I'd be like, cool, you've got a recumbent bike. Let's use it. Let's see it. And so I just have them tripods, set it up, get them on a certain dial in or, a certain resistance and go and time them and, keep them going. Just like if I was in the clinic talking to them, but I can't walk away.
There's a theme that I'm hearing throughout this whole thing with you personally. Number one is that you have extreme generosity in what you're doing, and both in the education that you provide and what you share. And then also it sounds like that really, that goes into how you're actually treating your patients as well. And that you're sending them free stuff. You're not overcharging them. You're providing them tremendous value. And so they are looking at the telehealth session and going, I am getting tremendous value out of this. There's no difference that it's through, Skype or whatever. Yeah. They're not missing out just because they're not going into an actual, clinic itself.
Right.
Which I thank you for. I mean, it always inspires me when I interview people that are doing stuff and that are just super genuine and like have a ton of integrity. I'm just like, okay, I gotta keep my act together with what I'm doing, which is awesome. So let's just talk about like if somebody is starting out or let's backtrack. Let's say they're in a brick and mortar. And this sounds like an attractive opportunity for them. And they're passionate about physical therapy. They want to make more money with physical therapy. They don't necessarily want to open their own practice because the brick and mortar thing is challenging, has its own set of challenges. What is the first thing that they should do to get started?
I would say if people ask me this question, what they always do, like, how do I get started? I always say practice with friends and family. Like just have your mom have a fake injury and then, give her a cheat sheet. And if she's a good actor, pick a friend that's a good actor, right? And then just start that way because that's going to get you more comfortable. And you're going to have to really think about, I don't have my hands. I can't use my hands, right? That is the most common thing that people say in the course that I teach, like week 4 and week 8 are actually doing visits. And it's, all legal and above board. But the thing is, I want the story of how it went. And the number one thing is, damn, it's hard, but wow, at the end, I understand all these little barriers, but I got around it. And at the end, the patient was like, that was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. So it's fun because it makes those creative juices start flowing again. And you have to assess and really not just depend on the go-tos, right? Put them on the total gym, walk away, and you got a free 10 minutes to do some notes real quick. You can't do that in telehealth. You have to be actively involved and actively listen, and you have to communicate. You can't be doctory with telehealth. So I always say, like, you're going to have to be a friend on telehealth because it's you and that person the whole time. So the best way to do it is to really get comfortable first, just practicing with friends and family. Once you're comfortable, 2-3 sessions, you're good. You grasp the concept. You have all the little tech glitches out of the way. Then you're good to go. And do some free ones.
It's interesting that you said that, though, that it's you can't be doctory, and that it's more almost. I almost got the impression you meant to imply it was more intimate in some way, than being in person. Why is that?
It's because you have no other choice than to communicate as best as you possibly can. Like if you are a horrible communicator, telehealth, you can't necessarily do it. Because you have to find all these end arounds and these weird examples, and you have to MacGyver it and duct tape it together sometimes. But then it's fun. Like you're figuring out how to actually be valuable, but also more convenient for the patient.
Right. What is once you start doing this as an actual business, what does your day look like? I mean, are most of the PTs that are doing this, quote unquote, full time, just essentially stay at home people, like stay at home moms or dads, or like do they essentially work from their house and do this? Like, what does their day look? I mean, I would imagine telehealth sounds cool, especially if you can do it like on the road. But for me, if I was like home all day on my computer treating people, that sounds very isolating in a way. So it sounds like there's a flip side to this as well. Yeah,
there is. And I think that a lot of people that are integrating it now are combining this with a mobile therapy practice. So they'll actually drive to the patient's house to see them. It's like almost home health, but for cash pay. And they're just using a home-based mobile physical therapy business model and incorporating telehealth with it. So if there's
follow-ups?
Yeah, as follow-ups or as extenuating circumstances, or just kind of combining the two and having it as two separate options. So you've got those types of patients. They'll want the in-person. They just drive out to that person's place. But then the ones that are outside of their radius, they can just do telehealth. So it kind of mix and matches. I suggest that people have specific dedicated days to telehealth. So maybe Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they do in-clinic or PRN or whatever they want. And as it grows, they can adjust.
Right. That's awesome. All right. I honestly could go on about this forever. Yeah. Like when I have great guests on, I'm like, all right, we could just keep chatting and I keep learning stuff. But let's conclude here and just let everybody know, like, how do they find you? How do they get involved in the telehealth building course that you have? And how do they get involved in PTLive?
Yeah. So if you go to telehealthbootcamp.com, so I made a very easy, just a forward, telehealthbootcamp.com. That'll get you over to the ICE course, which is CEU approved for 16 CEUs. So that knocks out a good portion of your CEUs. And it's an 8-week live course. Each week I'm doing one-on-one, 1 hour plus sessions. And then we have a private Facebook group that we have conversations, homework, group discussions, all kinds of stuff like that. And then PTLive, just go to ptlive.me. There's easy sign-up process for clinics and PTs. And then there's a button there that you can click through and then go to Digital Physio and check it out if you wanted to see what it was like.
That's awesome, man. Rob, thank you so much for being on the Physio Mission podcast. I really appreciate it, bro.
All right. Thanks for having me.